Can everyone see?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So thank you. Meeting is being recorded. Thank you, Sandy. Um, all right. So you've just entered the world of program development. Two big scary words. What do you need to know? This is the 101. So this will go over everything that you need to know. If you are interested in the new program development initiative, NPDI, this is a really good spot to get some grounding. If you're not interested in that, you can still learn about everything you need to know when it comes to developing a program here at LUK. So program development is all about grants. So a good place to start. What is a grant? A grant is a funding resource. It's meant to provide funds to the public population in some way. This can come from federal sources, local government sources, or from private organizations. The thing that makes grants different from donations or fundraising is that these are not refundable and they usually require some kind of condition to be met. So it's like giving someone $1 and saying, you can use this, but you cannot give it back to me in any way. And whatever you make with the dollar, I need to be informed about how that dollar is being spent. Grant awards usually require some kind of quantifiable follow through. So, like that dollar would get a report on exactly what that dollar was then used for. Some sort of way to see that the program is benefiting the public good. Grants are a part of nonprofit. Oh, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to interrupt me. Sorry, I can see the chat going, but interrupt me if people need to.
I got an eye on the chat.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So grants are an important part of nonprofit organizations. That's how we get programs funded, activities, initiatives, and that's how we support the communities that we're serving. Grants, despite the conceptual baselines that they have, are usually pretty varied in nature, but we're breaking this down to the three big parts of the process for the discussion today. There is the development of it, there is submitting the grant, and then there is the implementation. So those are the kind of three big buckets that those fall into. This is called the Gossamer thread. If you've been in the outskirts of program development, or maybe have heard something, you've probably heard of this before. This is kind of the partnership structure between different parts of the agency and the program development process and how this looks from that perspective. So you have at the very beginning, right here, the program development process, which is like the very start of it. That'll involve the program development team, which is myself, Sandy, Shira, who is our funder and relationship coordinator. That's the program development team, and Tom Hall, who is our CEO, who might be there sometimes. Any program leadership, QA, MIS, if that is needed. Then the program is implemented, so it's chucked to the program, and you get to implement it and give it to the community. We have the evaluation process, which is just as it sounds, evaluating how the program is doing. And then when it comes time for funding again, the redux, which is starting it all over again, if that's what the program needs. Any questions about the Gossamer thread? Alrighty. So a part of how LUK looks at this is keeping the community focus in mind. So what is the need of the community? How do we best serve the communities that we are working with? How are we going to address it? So if you have a model or a module or even a training that that is a significant portion of your job, that probably gets discussed around that point. How are we going to know if we have done it? Like, how are we going to know that, yeah, we've achieved an approach of some kind? What do we need to achieve that? Resources and inputs. How much is that going to cost? Because unfortunately, everything costs money. And then how are we going to pay for it? Which is usually where the grant comes in. So as you can see from this visual, they all kind of bleed into each other. Community, developing the model, et cetera, and then you go out and you find funding. However, not the only way that happens. because what can also happen is funders can put out an RFR, a request for response, to call for applications for people to apply and use the funds for programs. And then it is up to the organization to determine eligibility, like, can we apply to this? And then that's when they start the program development process. So it's kind of like, if you know that, like, where magicians have the ball in the cup and then they scramble it around and then they pick up the cup. Sometimes it feels like that, which is fun. So it can go in a lot of different ways, just depending on who's needing to be involved when. If you are interested in NPDI, this may be leaning more towards we have put out an RFR and now you have an idea and you are going to apply to it. So, a couple things about writing a grant. Paying attention to POV is important. First person should always be plural because you'd be talking about the agency. So it'd be we, or the program would be we. Work with your team. Collaboration is key. The stereotype of the grant writer working in a dark corner is not always the most conducive. Be as specific as you can. Be mindful of grammar, spelling, and formatting, and always keep your audience in mind. We always talk a lot in program seminar about, people who are reviewing a grant. Maybe your grant is the first one that they're looking at, or maybe it's midnight and they looked at a bajillion grants before. You don't know. So always keep the audience in mind about who you're writing to and how to best give that information to the funder in the best, most clear way you can. If you would like more tips about writing or general tips of the trade when it comes to the actual writing of a grant, we have more NPDI seminars coming up, so you should pop in for those. Okay, so how does this all flow? We talked about development, submission, implementation. Here's a little bit of the nitty-gritty. I will not be going through all of these in detail, so don't get scared. If one of these does spike some questions, feel free to ask, but also please note these will also have their own full dedicated NPDI seminars. So those will also be helpful to you. So the components that are most common when it comes to writing a grant, you have a summary, a needs section, a project description, goals and evaluation, capabilities and competencies, sustainability, a budget and a budget narrative, and then there's usually some kind of question about the fit within the LUK. Some grants ask for all. Some grants ask for none. Some grants ask for maybe half. You'll never know until you open up the actual application packet. So real quick, that's a lot of text. I promise is not too scary. Summary is exactly what it sounds like. It's a brief summary of all the components. A needs section. Why does the program even need to exist? Why do you need to put corgis in the main office? I don't know. A project description. So now what are you going to do about the need? What is the proposal that you are suggesting? And then the goal and the evaluation, also fairly self-explanatory in theory, will be, this is the goal that we're going to achieve with corgis in the main office. And this is how we're going to then evaluate if we get to that goal. Any questions about these components? All right. Capabilities and competencies. So you've given all this information about your program. So now how do we know that you're going to be able to do it? What are the staff qualifications? Do you have capacity to do it? Is there financial security in the agency? Do you have programmatic capacity? Like, how do we know that you're going to be able to do this? Sustainability is one of those that always feels like a little bit of a paradox, especially when explaining it. But this is explaining to the funder how the program is going to continue if or when the funding runs out or if the funding changes. So when a funding period ends, how is this program going to continue? And sustainability is supposed to reassure the funder that there's going to be a long-lasting impact to their funding. The budget and budget narrative. A budget breaks down what the money is going to be used for. It's a lot of numbers and math. A budget narrative details what each purpose is for each expense. So a budget is a candy bar is $5. Budget narrative is a candy bar is going to be eaten by the child in the program. The fit within LUK says a section that asks about how the proposal is going to fit within LUK's mission or vision or core values. This usually involves discussion between directors and staff in the program development team. If you are thinking about NPDI, fit within LUK is going to be a very important question. So keep that in mind, especially if you have an idea that you don't know if it's going to fit into your division. So any questions about these components? All right. So I've mentioned this before, but collaboration is a key part of program development. There's a lot of people that need to be in the room. There's a lot of steps to ensure that the community need is being addressed. It's never too late to gather people. And sometimes it even involves asking around for who might have the right information for a program. A lot of the program development process is going and poking people. A lot of directors in the room, sorry if I poked you a bunch. If you think you've covered all your bases for developing a program, cover more of them. A couple people who might be in the room, especially if you're thinking of applying to NPDI, think about if you want these people in the room to collaborate with on anything. Any program staff who are going to be on the ground, we try to involve them to make sure that, they are the ones who are working with the clients. They are the ones who are going to be producing the program. So it's good to have them to collaborate with. Supervisors and directors, any staff from other divisions that may be involved, finance, QA, HR, these are kind of components of the agency that tackle certain things. QA is quality assurance, so making sure that our standard of quality care continues to be upheld, and HR is human resources. So anything that, is human resources related. If you need maybe central referral needs to be in there to refer clients to the program. If you're working with a partner or there's a network that you are becoming involved in, you might need to collaborate with those people. You might even need to collab with the funder, question mark, exclamation points. A lot of private funders especially love to be involved in their projects and seeing live how their funds are being utilized in the community. So those are also good to collaborate with. There is a slide that talks a little bit more about partners and networks coming up.
Oh, Phoebe,
Yes,
we've had an excellent comment from Sarah, is to not forget about collaborating with marketing, especially at the implementation phase. Thank you, Sarah.
absolutely. Thank you, Sarah. Sorry, marketing. Perfect. All right. So the logic model. I'm sorry if I've jump scared anyone who's worked with the logic model before. The logic model is kind of how we think about how a program is going to be run in the long run. It defines the population, the goal, and then breaks it down literally in like the little arrows that show the circle. So population conditions, easy enough. What population are you going to work for? Goal, what do we want to achieve by working with that population? And then resources, which is what will you need to achieve that goal? Do you need, certain curricula that need a license? Do you need certain staff positions that maybe are new, or maybe staff positions that need to be taken away from a program? You need partners, other funding exists, other resources could be paper, markers, space. You can get really creative with resources. That leads into activities. So now you have all these resources. Well, what are you going to do with the resources? What are the staff going to be doing? How are the curricula going to be used? If you use an evidence-based, practice, what will that look like? And then after activities, now what are those activities going to do? What are their outputs? So if you do X, Y, Z, we are going to then produce ABC. So that's the end result. The outcomes is what will measure how we are then achieving the ultimate end goal based on the outputs. So if an output is we serve 5 kids in a month, then the outcome is we'll see X% increase in self-esteem, something like that. So that's how we're going to measure success. So kind of blew through the logic model, but any questions about logic model?
And
All
we
right,
will
cool.
have a whole hour on logic models coming up soon.
They are fun. The pipeline, this helps you lay out when certain things are going to be done. It's kind of like a roadmap, sort of how funding is going to be used. This is an example of something that LUK uses. If you're interested in NPDI, this is probably what you're going to be using. The more specific, the better. A timeline may look different for another funder if they give you the template. But this consists of a target start date, a target completion date, and an actual completion date, and then any activities that are going to be done by that time, who's responsible, and any explanation of status that you need. So pretty self-explanatory, but timelines are very helpful, especially for the implementation phase. I'd mentioned partnerships before. Partnerships are an external relationship that LUK makes with another agency or another organization that services youth and families. This could be a partnership to provide resources. It could be a partnership to provide services. It could be a partnership to just overall benefit the community and complete a shared goal between organizations. You could have a partnership with a school. You could have a partnership with a business. LUK has had partnerships with other service agencies, medical groups. You could do a federal agency partnership. If anyone has ever heard of the Channel 9 or anything like that, those are alliances or coalitions that are basically really, really far-reaching partnerships. Partnerships can either be legally binding or non-legally binding, and this depends on whatever level of support is agreed upon within the partnership. A good person to ask about that is Shira, our funder and relationship coordinator. She's not here today, but if you want to reach out to her, she's awesome. Yeah.
Phoebe, we had a good comment from Cassie, who knows a lot about this. Internal partnerships are also possible and pretty common and unique in and of themselves.
Yes, very much so. And I'm sure that people here have dived into internal partnership work, whether you might know it or not. But thank you, Cassie. That's a good point. Sometimes an amendment may be used for a submitted grant. So if a funder gets a grant submission and then may return it, and they may say, hey, love what you're doing. Can you change such and such? It's a change that can be made after the proposal is submitted. Not everyone does amendments. Amendments are kind of a nice slightly do-over sometimes, but it depends on the circumstances that the grant is being applied for. So, to approve a grant submission before it goes in, all grant submissions have to be approved by LUK leadership for our standard grant. So this means that for the program development team, and if you are ever involved in the program development process, as you know, wherever you may be, for us, we cannot submit unless the LUK CEO signs off. So unless we get Beth's permission, and the LUK director of program development. So unless we ask Sandy, are we good to go? For those considering submitting for NPDI, the approval that you need is going to come from your supervisor or director. You do not need to panic, email the CEO or program development for any approval to apply. You can just submit and or submit after getting approval from your supervisor and or director. So the thing about grants is that sometimes they're not always assured. You can apply for something and then you may not get it. It is an unfortunate part of just what a grant is. So what happens if a project is not funded? These are some of the possible steps that we take. This is not for every grant rejection that we get, but just a couple of things that program development may take away from, the bigger grant pictures are to take a lesson for what it is. Usually grants provide feedback, be it a point-based system or something else. Sometimes there are letters that give you information. Um, especially as grants become competitive, they can be really like very, very fine print of like it could be formatting that set you back. It could be a typo, like it could be a million things. It literally could be that your grant was viewed last. Um, so make note of whatever information you have and then apply it to the next one. You can request a debrief with a funder. Debrief is when you arrange a meeting with the individual who scored the application and you can go over points. And this can be very helpful if you need clarification. For NPDI, I believe that we usually do debrief requests. So, in fact, I'm pretty sure strongly encourage it. Is that right, Sandy?
Yeah, for everyone who submits an application who is not selected to move forward, we do a debrief with everybody.
All right. And then there are always more funding opportunities out there. If you can think it, there's a funder for it. So don't get discouraged. Just get back to the drawing board. If a project is funded, yay! Celebrate! Grants are hard. Please pat yourself on the back, and then you can move on to implementation. Always an important part of the process, and we accidentally forget it. Oops. Implementation and program development. So this is the process of taking the program and putting that into action. So if you thought there were people in the collaboration process, there are even more people in this one. So there's a whole bunch of people here. For program development, you hand off the program to the staff and maybe help with reports. But implementation is usually a process where program development is going to step away and hand off the program to the people who run it best. The program staff, they get activities going, they collect the program data. Program staff, we love you very much. And they're the ones who are getting it done. The quality assurance team is making sure that the program complies with requirements. They are also the people who track contracts and track data. Thank you, quality assurance. We love you too. And then finance gets funds for the program, and they keep track of any spending, any stipended work, any contracts that we need to pull down funds from. Thank you, finance. And there's a lot more that probably could be listed here. Whoever needs to be involved in this is going to be involved in this. So, yeah, if you're thinking, hey, I probably have implemented a program before, you absolutely have. Okay, I just threw a lot of information at you. If you have questions, you can reach out to the program development team. Or if you have more NPDI specific questions, you can reach out to npdi@luk.org for more specific questions to your NPDI submission. Program development team, again, is me, hello, and Sandy, and then Shira Tall. So, yeah, and that's kind of the overall 101 overview about what the grant development process is. Any questions or thoughts that we can share, we can always talk about.
I'm sorry if you already said this, but do we have access to this information you're sharing, just in case?
Yes, I can pop this into the Slack channel for program development, the announcement channel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, all the recordings for NPDI are also uploaded to Talent LMS and YouTube, and you can get there. Obviously, you can go to Talent LMS, give us a few days to make sure it gets uploaded and everything. But also luk.org/NPDI. That's where we have tons of resources to help folks who are applying, from glossaries to examples and frequently asked questions, really. And if there's anything that people want to know that you can't find, just reach out and ask.
Thank you.
Nina, absolutely. Yeah, if you are not in the program development channel, just let me know and I will get you in there. In fact, I was looking at it earlier. I think it might be um, private, and I don't think it has to be. So, oh, Meryl, thank you so much. Meryl already took care of you.
Grants are not scary. Usually, grants are pretty fun. Um, they may be a hard process, but they're also a part of how LUK runs. Um, so yeah.
I think one of the takeaways, especially for NPDI, is don't feel like you have to do everything by yourself. So we will help you identify a mentor and other resources and people who do presentations for us. So like Shane is going to do logic models in a couple weeks. Tom is an expert at budgets. You know, feel free to reach out and use the resources across the agency. And if you're not sure who, just ask us because I'm sure we would be able to point you in the right direction.
We also have ongoing NPDI office hours if people want specific help or to shoot us questions. Those are available, as well as our open pitch sessions for NPDI. So you can always take advantage of those if you want direction on who to talk to or where to go.
Right. Yvonne, you are in the channel now too. Any other questions about today's topic? It was really intended to give like an orientation to the process, and each week now moving forward, we'll dive into more specific steps related to new program development initiative. All right, then I will stop recording.